The cemetery was always open. No gates, no guards, no signs warning visitors to leave before nightfall. It was a place outside of time, existing in a perpetual dawn. And every morning, without fail, Sora found himself standing at its entrance. The rain soaked his coat, a cold and constant companion. In the distance, the bell of a hidden shrine told a single mournful note. He'd check his phone, but the time never changed. 5:44 a.m. frozen. Sora told himself he came here to remember. But the irony was he couldn't remember what he was trying to recall. Rows upon rows of gravestones stretched into a thick, clinging fog. Their names were blurred, chipped away by some unseen force, as if the stone itself wanted to forget the names it held. Some graves were fresh, the earth still dark and soft, disturbed. Others were ancient and cracked open, gaping and empty like mouths screaming into the silence. As Sora walked the familiar winding paths, whispers followed him. They were quiet, just on the edge of hearing, easily mistaken for the wind rustling through unseen trees. "Why did you choose me?" a voice would murmur. "Do you recognize my face?" another would plead. "You promised," a third would accuse. He never turned around, he couldn't. Looking would make them real, and he wasn't ready for that. At the very center of the cemetery stood a single monolithic stone, taller and darker than all the rest. It bore no name, no date. Only a strange symbol was carved deep into the rock, a perfect circle, broken by a single, jagged line. Sora instinctively avoided it. He felt a pull toward it, a dread that coiled in his gut. Every loop, every morning was the same. The rain, the bell, the unchanging time on his phone. It was a prison disguised as a routine. Sometimes a groundskeeper would appear. A thin, wiry man with a shovel and a smile stretched just a little too tightly across his face. He'd wave whenever Sora passed, his eyes shining with an unnerving emotion that looked almost like pity. "You're early again," the man said one morning, his voice raspy. "Or late. It's hard to tell with you." His words hung in the damp air, loaded with a meaning Sora couldn't grasp. Sora finally broke his silence. He had to know. "Whose cemetery is this?" he asked, his own voice sounding foreign to him. The groundskeeper let out a soft, dry laugh, a sound like dirt shifting. "Yours," he said simply, before turning back to his work, leaving Sora alone with the chilling finality of that single word. That night, the loop fractured. The fog grew impossibly thick, a white wall that swallowed the moon and stars, pressing in on him. The whispers were no longer whispers. They became voices, clear and distinct, calling to him from the mists. And then, faces began to form in the swirling fog, the faces of children, of lovers, of strangers. Each one was distorted, nightmarish, yet deep down, horrifyingly familiar. They didn't accuse him, they didn't scream, they just waited, their hollow eyes fixed on him. Panic seized him. Sora ran. He fled through the suffocating fog, but the cemetery twisted in on itself. The paths looped back, leading him in circles. The graves themselves seemed to shift and rearrange their names, mocking his escape. He was trapped in a labyrinth of his own making. In his blind terror, he stumbled and fell hard, his hands slamming against cold, hard stone. He looked down. He had fallen at the base of the central monument. His palm was pressed directly into the carved symbol, the broken circle. And then the memories came. They didn't trickle back. They rushed in like a landslide, like soil filling his lungs, choking him. He remembered the cult. A group that believed death wasn't an end, but a doorway. They preached a twisted salvation, a promise that lost and suffering souls could be saved by giving them a final, quiet rest. He remembered the nights, the cold, dark nights he spent leading people here, to this very cemetery. He told them it would keep them safe, that it was a sanctuary. He remembered the cloying, sweet smell of the poison mixed into the ceremonial tea. The shallow graves he helped dig. The hollow prayers he spoke over their bodies, words that were too little, too late. Most vividly, he remembered standing over them as they died. He watched the light fade from their eyes. He did nothing to stop it. Because stopping it would mean admitting what he was a part of. A monster hiding behind a savior's mask. When the last soul fell silent, the weight of his actions became unbearable. So, He did the only thing he could think of. He erased himself. He buried his own memories deep beneath the same soil, building this prison of rain, and fog and bells to walk through forever, endlessly tending the dead he had made. A figure stepped out of the mist, the shovel resting on his shoulder. The groundskeeper. "You finally remembered," he said, his voice no longer raspy, but clear and somber. Sora slowly got to his feet and looked around. The graves were different now. The fog had thinned just enough for him to see. The names on the headstones were sharp and clear. Every single stone bore a name he now knew. And beneath each name, a new inscription had appeared. Cause of death. Chosen. He was the one who had chosen them. "I don't deserve forgiveness," Sora whispered, the words tearing from his throat. The groundskeeper gave a slow, deliberate nod. That was never an option. The distant bell rang one last time. But this time it was different. It felt final. The rain, his constant companion for so long, stopped. The air grew still. Sora knelt at the nameless central stone, the one he had avoided for so long. With trembling hands, he took a sharp rock and began to carve his own name into it. When he finally stood up, the last of the fog lifted. The cemetery was silent, truly silent. The whispers were gone. He checked his phone. 5:45 a.m. Time moved forward. Sora remained. He was not redeemed. He was not absolved. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more tales from the shadows.